Welcome back, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in and watching our March Madness breakdown. That's coming up starting tomorrow. We've got some of those first four games that happened last night. Um, very excited to see how it's going to play out. I mean, the bracket, upset prone is one way to put it. I mean, it's going to be awesome. Um, Alex Ovechkin looking like he may start to catch up to Gretzky here. Maybe mid-season next season. We're going to see how that goes. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. NFL free agency has continued to not disappoint. A lot of teams making a lot of big moves. It's very exciting. Some teams are going to, or some fan bases are going to be very ecstatic for this upcoming year, especially if you live in Pittsburgh. You should be very happy with what your guys' GM has done. Um, and then, yeah, we'll wrap it up with our picks for the weekend and some headlines that have come out since last Wednesday. So, Joe, are you excited?
Let's get excited, baby. Let's get excited. All right, you ready to get into this?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Greatest tournament in the world starts tomorrow. And with the great product we got in the conference tournaments, we're bound to be in for a heck of a ride. Let's get excited because we all have no idea what's going to happen. So let's just sit back and enjoy the 4-day affair. And don't forget to go to NutriSaveHealth.com and join our bracket challenge.
Great plug there. Talking about those conference tournaments, we saw, I believe the number, and I think I mentioned this Wednesday in our March Madness special. I believe the number was 21 non-one seeds ended up winning their conference tournament. And I think the most surprising was NC State going on a Cinderella run, winning 5 games in 5 days to capture the ACC title. Um, First off, what are your thoughts on NC State being able to go through? I think they started with Syracuse, but then in the stretch of three, like I think it was 3 days, they had UNC, Duke, and Virginia that they all had to beat.
Yeah, and they ran through the state of North Carolina. That was woefully impressive. I'm gonna pull up what they went through. So they beat Louisville, Syracuse, Duke, UVA, and North Carolina. Absolutely insane run. And they're playing, talk about, us and that talk about sports talk about this all the time. You want to be playing your best basketball at the end of the year. Well, NC State's definitely playing their best basketball, especially because in the middle of the year they dropped quite a few games they should have won. So, and I think it saved their coach's job making the tourney too, because they wouldn't have made it in. And you had 4 or 5 bid stealers, which is insane, which is why some of these bubble teams like, oh, there's one I'm thinking of. I can't remember who it was. It was a Big East team. But there are teams like Providence that got stubs, Oklahoma. I cannot remember the other team I had on top of my head. You wrote it down.
St.
It was a
John's?
big, yeah, it was St. John's. Um, so those bid stealers kind of killed some of those bids, but parity in college basketball, man. I mean, there are a lot of good matchups, and I think there are a lot of double digit seeds that can make a run to at least the Sweet 16 and the Elite Eight.
So you just said you think there's a couple of teams. I mean, give us one real quick as people, I guess, are starting or finishing filling out their brackets. Um, who's your favorite double seeded team to make it all the way to the Elite Eight, possibly in the Final Four? I believe FA was it FAU last year was like a 10 seed,
I think there are 9. I think it
nine.
was one. UConn was a 4 seed, and then Miami and San Diego State were 5 seeds, and FAU was a 9 seed.
And I think
I think
I
that's
think
what it was.
I'm pretty sure it was 2020. It may have been 2021, but that UCLA run, believe it was Johnny Juzang, and I can't remember what the other guy's name was, but I believe he's in the NBA now. When UCLA went all the way to the Final Four and lost to Gonzaga, that
I believe so.
I believe they
No,
were
they
an 11
canceled it
seed.
in 2020. It
I
was
said
canceled in
2021.
2020.
2021. Yeah,
It
I'd say
might have
2020.
been. I'm not 100% sure.
But
Um,
I,
so you want I like New Mexico, I like Nevada, and I like Drake. Those are my three teams, double digit seeds that I like. Um, because Drake would play. The biggest problem for Drake is they play Iowa State if they end up beating Washington State, and that's not no walk in the park. Um, New Mexico, I think they're going to have a relatively easy time with Clemson. Same with Nevada. I don't think Dayton's going to give them too much of a heckle. But New Mexico's got probably the best path of these teams because they'd go and play Baylor in the second round. Baylor, the winner of Baylor or Colgate. I think Baylor's got that one in the bag. Um, so it's a lot of interesting games. I'm super excited. Um, I'm to, I'm going to be watching as many of these games as possible. Um, Super excited. Hopefully, we get some upsets, some buzzer beaters, some dunks, some comebacks, all that type of stuff. I'm super excited for it. Who are
so
your double digit seeds that you like right now?
so I like McNeese State as like an underdog. Um, I think they'll be able to beat Gonzaga. They're in a tough part of the bracket. Um, they might be able to. I think it's going to take like a couple miracles. They're a 12 seed. JMU I think has a chance. I think they play Wisconsin first. I think they'll be able to beat Wisconsin, and then should I think Duke is who they'd have next, assuming Duke win. I
Duke or
don't remember.
Vermont?
So I think Duke beats Vermont, but I don't like Duke's the way they match up with JMU. Um, I know I said I believe it was
Well,
the
JMU, I feel like it's really athletic.
yeah, I feel like Duke's kind of soft. So there's
I
there's a
said that
lot
on
of
Wednesday, I think, too,
mhm.
or Monday. Yeah, it was Monday. So
So
I said that on Monday.
I've
And
thought about it. I don't think Duke's going to go very far. They had a solid season. They couldn't beat the good teams really when it mattered. It was the same thing with UVA. Um, and I mean, at time of recording, UVA is getting their butts handed to them by Colorado
yeah, they're
State.
getting
So
spanked right now.
I could see JMU laying a spanking down for Duke. I cannot wait to see the JMU Barstool post after that would happen. Um, but quite the entertainment to come from that. Um, so we talked about all those teams that weren't able to get in because of bid stealers, and where they would get put would be the NIT tournament. And so there have been quite a few teams that have kind of stepped out of the norm and rejected their NIT bids, basically ending some of those seniors' seasons and careers. Um, Teams such as Indiana, St. John's that we had just talked about, Memphis, Syracuse, Ole Miss, Pitt, and Oklahoma all have rejected their invitations to the NIT tournament. What are your thoughts on that?
So I got two kind of separate but not really conflicting thoughts. I understand if you're a coach and you want to go out on the recruiting trail because the transfer portal opened up. You had a couple of Wolverines players hop in the portal. Um, and I think there were a couple more coaches that got fired and their players got hopped in the portal. Um, I don't like it because you're taking away some of these kids' last chance because most of these kids aren't going to the NBA. Most of these kids aren't even going to step foot on a G League court. So I don't like it. You better not be able to field a team. If you're going to say no to the NIT, you better not be able to field a team. So if you don't have 6 or 7 guys, you should play in the NIT. Even if the coach wants to opt out, I'd be fine with that. I think the coach should be able to opt out if he wants to and go hit the recruiting trail because I don't blame you. You need to go replace some of the guys you're losing next year. But to decide that these kids don't get to play some of their last chances to be on a basketball court is I don't like it. I understand it from a coaching perspective, but go make an assistant coach it. Go let the walk-ons play. At least let the kids that want to play. Especially the seniors that will never be able to play a meaningful game of basketball again.
So I agree with you kind of very much in that, but I also see it when you reject a bid to an NIT tournament, I think it tells me a lot about your program and the culture you have within that locker room. It makes you look like a sore loser. Like you go and I mean, you look at Oklahoma, Indiana, St. John's, and Ole Miss had some fairly decent tournament runs in their conference tournaments and played very well towards the end of the season. Like they had a fighter's chance there at the end, but then you go and you kind of just belly up and you're like, oh, we're not going to play in the NIT tournament. Why? I mean, I get, hey, you may want to go on the recruiting trail, but like those guys who came off the bench and busted their ass trying to fight for a spot are now like their time when they be able to shine and go and kind of I don't want to say screw around in the NIT tournament, but to go play in a game that would actually have some significance where they would actually have the light be able to shone on them when you go and look at that run they made towards the end of or the runs they made towards the end of the season where they probably didn't step foot on a court. And so I feel bad for those guys. I feel bad for those um, eighth, ninth guys on the team who didn't really get to play out, I guess, the remainder of their season. So I feel for them. Kind of, it's. I think it's a pretty good indicator of where your culture is on the team and where that locker room sits. So I mean, I think you just got to do better as not only a team, but kind of as like a whole athletic department there.
Yeah, and the NIT ain't what it used to be. Like, no one really cares outside of the schools that are in it. I care because I'm an Ohio State fan and we went to the NIT. But would I care if Ohio State was not in the NIT or in the March Madness tournament? No. So the NIT ain't what it used to be. It's lost a lot of its luster and its shine. So I understand why you do it from a coaching perspective, but I don't think that's fair. I think you should do everything you can to at least let your guys play as a coach or athletic department or whatever you want to go with. Um, but I don't think I don't think there's much of a reason for you to not play. You can find a way. You don't need your head coach on the court. You don't need your You don't need your all-stars on the court. Like, let them go train for the NBA draft or opt out to do whatever. But I'm on the side of you should let the boys play. And that's where I'll leave that. I ain't got much else to say on that, but
So speaking of guys who have been playing and kind of going out there and putting on a show lately, how about Alex Ovechkin? I mean,
and as of right
he's been.
now, the Caps have he's pushed the Caps into a playoff spot.
I mean, I don't want to say dude's carrying the team, but dude is carrying the team right now. I mean, especially in where I look at it, our 2018 Stanley Cup run, a huge part of that was the third and fourth forward lines. Um, Major contributions made by Devontae Smith-Pelly, Lars Eller, and a lot of those guys who those bottom six forwards and having that depth allowed us to go and beat Tampa in seven, Columbus in six, and ultimately Vegas in five. And so I'm looking at it now. We got guys like Sonny Milano who have been playing their absolute minds out. But then you get your top guy in one of the greatest goal scorers of all time in Ovechkin to go and finally. I mean, he started off pretty slow, and I was concerned that if he kept it up all season, he was going to retire after the end of the season. But I mean, he's got 3 goals in the last 2 games. Almost had the hat trick last night against Cal, or I guess 2 nights ago against Calgary. He's got 9 points in the last 9 games, 12 goals since the start of February, and at the end of January through about midway of February, he had a 6 game goal streak. Um, and so, do you think he's got a chance to catch Gretzky kind of towards midseason next season? He only needs 51 goals.
He ain't gonna do it next season. So how many games are left? We played about 65 games, I want to say. It's March 19th, so I'd say about 65 games.
So he's played
I just
64. So they've got what, 16 left?
Yeah, if he stays on this pace,
18. So I think he'll
um
probably get maybe 10 more if especially if they make the playoffs. I think he's got room in him for 15 more, and that's probably about it for this season. But I think he could squeeze out 40 goals next season.
so implying that they don't make playoffs this year, right? He's had 5 goals in his last 9 games, right?
Hmm.
So you got about 16 games. So we'll say 9 goals, right? So that brings you down to 42. I don't see him scoring 42 goals next season. The only way is if they make the playoffs. Because he's got to be done after that.
Yeah,
Unless he's really wants to break the record that bad. But I don't know if Ovi cares that much.
I think
It depends what the Caps do in the offseason. Because if the Caps get better, it depends if they. Because he, if he plays next season, then and the Caps don't go to at least the second round next season, then I don't see a way where he comes back. And especially if they don't try to make any moves, because I think he'd be like a late July retirement, like after the
mhm.
draft, after a lot of free agency's done. So he's on pace for about. You said he had 22 goals when we were talking earlier. 22
Uh,
goals so far.
so he's got 21 goals, 31 assists this season for 52 points in 64 games.
So that'd put him at 27 this year. So yeah, he'd have to play. I just don't know. I mean, we'll see how much he does in the last 16, but and he's looked good right now, but if he only squeezes out 8 more this year, 42 is a tall task for what, a 39-year-old, 38-year-old?
So, and some of their upcoming games, I mean, they don't have the easiest closing schedule. I mean, we go against or home versus Toronto, home versus Carolina, home versus Winnipeg, home versus Detroit, and then we play Toronto on the road, home against Boston, at Buffalo, home against Pittsburgh, at Carolina, and so that stretch of games right there, that's no like San Jose, Chicago, Anaheim. Those are some tough teams that he's going to have to perform against. Um, I like his chances scoring a couple against the Toronto Blue times, but I mean, it's not going to be easy the rest of the way in.
Yeah, that's rough. Hold on, I'm looking up the standings right now. Um, so Detroit with a win tonight just knocked and this is Tuesday night. They knocked Washington out of the playoff spot. But Washington has also played 2 less games than Detroit. Washington's played 67 games.
Mm-hmm.
So, which only gives Ovi 13 games left. No, 15. Right?
We
Yeah,
have
15.
15.
67 games played. So that's 15 more games. So so they're 2 games, and I mean it's tight in the East. You've got 5 teams outside the wild card spot that are within 7 points of Detroit. So, and Detroit has the most games played, tied with Buffalo and New Jersey. So they're gonna have to be playing their best hockey right now. Uh, they could very easily catch up Detroit. They do have the advantage of the 9 to 6 overtime losses. Um, so it'll be interesting to see, especially 'cause I predicted my favorite team's downfall. Um,
We'll get to that one here in a second.
we can talk about it now because I jinxed it. I should have knocked on wood. They fell apart because Dylan Larkin got injured. But hey, we beat the worst team in the East tonight, so that's
It
great.
took it took overtime, but I mean,
And we
right
tried to
right
sell the
around
game.
right around when you said they were the hottest team in the NHL, right around that end of February mark, they go on what, a 7-8 game losing streak.
I think we've won like 2 of the last 10.
Yeah, so
We're just
don't
Post Malone fell apart.
don't
Like,
don't be don't be surprised if I turn that into a meme tomorrow.
until we made the playoffs and then go all the way to the conference championship. We just need Dylan Larkin back. That's all we need. Just Dylan, please come back. Please. Captain, please.
You guys don't have an easy closing out part of the schedule either. I mean, you guys go at home against New York, go on a quick road trip that involves stops in Washington, Carolina, Florida, and Tampa. That's a uh, tough roadie right there.
We got a lot of games against wild card teams too. Against the Lightning,
Washington,
Sabres, Washington, Pittsburgh's still
Pittsburgh.
in that fight. I ain't really worried about the Habs, but
I know that's
yeah, it's a tough April schedule. But Larkin should be coming back here soon. So hopefully they can figure it out. But the we will see. Um, anything else you got on that?
no. Let's dive into
Let's get into the meat of the episode.
the other March Madness that has been NFL free agency. Um,
I like that.
I mean, it's true. It's truly been madness. I've seen moves happen over the past week that I never thought I'd see in my lifetime. Um,
I do want to start with this. Aaron Donald, hell of a career. Aaron Donald retired. Hell of a
absolute
career.
monster.
The greatest interior defensive lineman of all time. And no, it's not Reggie White. Aaron Donald did it as a small guy. He's like 6'1", 280. Reggie White was like 6'5", 310. Aaron Donald, and I heard this stat the other day. And it was the average NFL pass rusher has a 17% win rate, pass rush win rate against single blocks, so single man blocks. Aaron Donald has an 18% win rate against double team blocks. That is insane, dude. You're winning 18% of the time against these 6-7 monsters that they have on the offensive lines in the NFL. So I think he was Pro Bowl all 10 years of his career, and he got out while he was younger. So good for Aaron Donald. Super hell of a career. He got his ring. So good for him. I just want to start with that. You can give your thoughts.
You just about covered it. I mean, when my kids ask me, "Hey, Dad, what was Aaron Donald like?" I'm gonna tell them it took people 3 guys to stop him. I mean, he was just so explosive up the middle. And I mean, you talk about him being a small guy. I mean, you look at and you'll see pictures of, and I don't know what the stat on it is, how many times he drew holding calls, especially just barging right up the middle, using the swim move and stuff like that. Where I mean, he just blows right through that, I guess, middle front, and I mean, closes those gaps down. So I mean, he was such a big part of that Rams Super Bowl and being able to just chase around Joe Burrow for an hour. But I mean, that Bengals offensive line was looking like South Carolina's this past year. I mean, Swiss
Ran through.
cheese. or the American border. I mean, just I know we try not to get political, but the South Carolina offensive line giving up, I think it was 11 sacks against North Carolina in the first game of the season. I mean, come on, man. Like, if I was running
Hold,
Sports
hold
Center's
on, I'll
not
be
top
right
10,
back.
the
I'll be right back.
entire um, South Carolina offensive line should have gotten a not top 10 for giving up 11 sacks. Unbelievable that Spencer Rattler was able to still somehow keep us in that game. Juice Wells going out with an injury didn't help us, but I mean that was the storyline of South Carolina football this past season was us not being able to effectively block with the O line. Defense was questionable in that first little bit, but so Aaron Donald being able to do what he did with what he was given physically, absolutely incredible. Um, I think it came out 2 days ago, but Chase Young to the Saints. I think as a Saints fan, I don't know how I feel about it because Chase Young kind of injury prone, um, but having him and Cam Jordan on opposite sides of the D line is giving me Nick Bosa and uh, Chase Young vibes from the Niners. So, what are your thoughts on the Saints being able to kind of swing around the outside there now?
I mean, what has Chase done in the NFL? I love Chase Young. I mean, I root for him, but what has he done? He's been beat up. He didn't really do a lot in San Francisco. Um, Good for Chase. I hope he figures it out because he was a monster in college.
It
Um,
tore it up for Ohio State.
yeah. Oh, he was the Aaron Donald for Ohio State. He was double teamed every play. And so, um, Aaron, I mean, I hope Chase figures that out, but what has he done? I mean, he, the interior of the Niners defensive line was not good. I'll I'll say that. But he's not winning. He's not winning pass rushes. Nick Bosa did most of the lifting in the Super Bowl, and they still lost. And Nick Bosa played a hell of a game. But um, hopefully it works out. I'll root for them. They're not in a division that's hard to win, so hopefully they'll figure it out. Hopefully Chase will figure it out. I I don't hate the move because I don't think they paid him that much.
It was 13 million for 1 year.
I mean, it was a rental for a year, see if it works out. I don't hate that deal. Could you have
I
spent the
think
money somewhere else? Sure, but I don't hate the deal. And you got the quarterback locked up for a while, so um it was probably needed to shore up that defensive line. I think the Saints I don't think the Saints secondary was terrible, but I think they need O linemen. I think you might want to get another receiver because Michael Thomas is injured so much. But
I don't think Michael Thomas is going to end up playing for us this upcoming season. I think he's going to end up walking.
is he in free agency?
I believe he
I
is. If
thought
not, he's probably going to end up requesting a trade right around the draft.
we'll see. But either
I
way,
mean,
I think
if I'm
if
being completely
I
honest, I don't really want him on the team. He's done jack shit for us the past couple of years. Go with Chris Olave. Go pick up. There's some very quality receivers in the draft. Go pick up a Xavier Leggett. Um, but I wouldn't be
or
surprised
even
to see
Troy Franklin. Troy
Troy. I wouldn't be
Franklin's going to be back in that draft. Go pick up Troy Franklin.
so. It'll be
Leggett,
interesting.
we'll see because we'll see where you pick him up because I have a feeling he'll be like a Tank Dell from last year. Um, like he'll blow up, be like a later draft pick. He ain't gonna be a first round wide receiver. So we'll see. Um, that's all I got on that. But um, do you want to hold the biggest news for last? You know what I'm talking about.
Not
Let's do these quarterback moves. Let's do these quarterback moves real quick. So I'm gonna read all these off. This is all of these NFL teams are getting backup quarterbacks after the amount of quarterback injuries we saw last year. So you had Jimmy Garoppolo go to the Rams, Kenny Pickett to the Eagles, Sam Howell to the Seahawks to back up Geno Smith, Ritter to the Cardinals, Joe Flacco to the Colts, Gardner Minshew to the Raiders, Jacoby Brissett to the Patriots, Sam Darnold to the Vikings, Drew Lock to the Giants, and Jameis Winston to the Browns. And then 2 more quarterback moves, Kirk Cousins to the Falcons, which I want to talk about that, and Baker Mayfield got paid. Baker deserves every penny of that contract. He balled last year. That's all I want to say on that, but congrats to Baker Mayfield. I've been rooting for him, even though I didn't like him at Oklahoma, but he's definitely matured, and I really like what Baker did last year, and I'm super happy that he got paid.
I'm personally not happy with what he did last year. I mean, dude kind of took a playoff spot from us, but great that he got paid. I think he deserves it. I mean, he had a hell of a season. I mean, I think he was one of the only quarterbacks to go into Lambeau and have like a perfect passer rating. So I mean, he really him and Mike Evans really carried Tampa to the playoffs. I mean, I think their defense was solid. I think there's still room for them to improve. I believe they re-signed Antoine Winfield. They either re-signed him or he got
I
traded.
believe so, but they did lose Devin White,
Yeah,
which was a
so
huge loss.
they've got some holes to fill, some things to shore up, but I think at worst they're going to be a wild card team this season. So
We'll see what they do in the draft. Um, Kirk Cousins to the Falcons. I think the Falcons overpaid. Overpaid. How has Kirk Cousins earned the second most money in NFL history with 1 playoff win? Behind
I
Aaron
don't
Rodgers.
I don't know, but whoever's helping him structure his contracts, can I get your phone number? I've got some things I'd like to do in my life, so I mean, dude, hit me up. I will give
Master
you.
negotiator over here.
I,
Like, that is insane. $180 million for 4 years? That's insane. I mean, I get Arizona needs it, but you're a
you,
young team. Go draft a quarterback.
do you mean Atlanta there? You said Arizona.
Oh yeah, whatever. I mean, they need a quarterback too. I don't think Kyler's all that, but um, they got Desmond Ritter though, so yippee. Um, yeah, I have no idea how Kirk's gotten so much money. What was another movie you wanted to cover?
I like Flacco going to the Colts. I think that's. I mean, you look at what he did for Cleveland last year when Deshaun Watson ended up going down. He really stepped in and balled out. Uh, he had over 1,600 yards, 13 touchdowns with 8 picks in 5 games. I mean, and really played the Browns into a playoff spot there. And so I mean, I like that. Come in, help Anthony Richardson develop, have him be a veteran guy in the room who's able to still step in and play at such a high level. I think that's where a lot of these backups in previous years have lacked, especially, excuse me, when you look at like the Jets last year, where when Aaron Rodgers went down, there wasn't anyone really to back him up. I get Zach Wilson's still kind of young and I guess developing, but he's in what year 3 now. And so having a guy like Flacco there to back up Anthony Richardson, help him develop, and I think Richardson's going to be a great quarterback for the Colts. Dude's got an absolute cannon on him. Um, so it'll definitely be interesting to see how that plays out. I think the Colts won there, and a great pickup. So I don't know if you got any thoughts on that, but I think the Colts definitely caught a G with that move.
I think Anthony Richardson's a bust. Dude can't stay healthy.
He
He don't get me wrong,
he
he
had
has Cam Newton potential. But I just don't dude couldn't even throw for like over what, 55% in college?
I don't blame him.
Like
Florida's been a team of neglect these past
Florida's
couple of
got
years.
athletes. There's no excuse for that. You had guys like Ricky Pearsall. You got athletes on the outside. There's
Rick,
no
Ricky
excuse.
Ricky came in this past year as a transfer, I believe.
I don't think
I think
so.
he
I
I
could
think
be
he came.
wrong. But either way, Florida has athletes at wideout. So there's no excuse for that. AR is just not accurate with the football. I don't think he's going to be a good quarterback. I don't think he's going to, because I don't think he can stay healthy. He's got potential. He's got Cam Newton potential. But I just don't see him staying healthy. I mean, he got injured in 5 weeks last year, or however long. I think Joe Flacco will be the starter by week 7. I don't see a way where Anthony Richardson stays healthy.
That's aggressive. Um, I, I I can't remember what his injury was, but I feel like it was somewhat serious.
So he got injured once with a concussion at the beginning of the season, and then he came back, and like 2 games later he got hurt for the season ending injury.
Was it something with his shoulder? I thought it was something with his shoulder the second time.
Yeah, I think so.
And that could spell bad things. I mean, we've seen quarterbacks get shoulder injuries and never be the same again. Um, last move I thought that was a really good move was the Ravens picking up Derrick Henry. That was one I didn't really see happening. Um, Tennessee letting, I guess, I think he walked in free agency. I don't think Tennessee got him anything back for him, right?
Yeah, he walked.
So huge signing by the Ravens. Adding such a physical runner in Derrick Henry to be able to complement that shifty and elusive side of Lamar Jackson. I think that offense is they really tried to go and add pieces to get them over the hump in the AFC. I think they'll definitely because I mean the problem was in the playoffs I don't think they were physical enough. And when you add a guy like Derrick Henry at running back, I think you get that physicality. So I mean, kind of back to I think what your slogan is physicality wins trophies. I think they've added that in one of the most physical rushers in the NFL.
So I'm gonna disagree with your point that they weren't physical enough. The reason they lost to the Chiefs is because Lamar Jackson tried to do everything. Like he tried to out Patrick Mahomes, and he lost. He lost in the game by doing it. And so did Zay Flowers. Zay Flowers lost him that game too. And Zay Flowers was also balling that game, but he also made some stupid mistakes that he shouldn't have made, like fumbling the ball on the goal line. So I think I think I think Lamar's excuses were over last year, but they're over this year. You have no excuses whatsoever. Zay's in his second year. There's no excuses. And so, um, we'll see, with Lamar, but God, that backfield's scary. You got, Justice Hill. I think Gus Edwards left. Um, but you
Yeah,
got
I think
Justice
I
Hill
believe
back
he went
there.
to like the Chargers.
Chargers, yeah,
I
because
could
they
I could be
let
wrong, but
Keenan Allen go, or not Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler, but they also let Keenan Allen go, which we'll get to in a minute. Um, but I think it's a great move for Baltimore. Um, it's just I don't know if I can trust Lamar to do it in the playoffs. That's what I'm worried about. And a lot of the problem is that I'm worried about that defense now. Because your defense was so good because you had Patrick Queen and Roquan Smith at your linebackers. You let Patrick Queen go. So I would Baltimore still has to be Baltimore and keep that defense going. So I'd be a little worried about that, but other than that, I like the move. Um, we'll we'll see when it comes postseason. I mean, we know they're going to be a wagon in the regular season, but um, I like the move for Baltimore. I like it for Derrick Henry because he doesn't have to be the main show. But I I like that. I like that move. Um, is there any other ones you want to cover before we get to Justin Fields? I don't see anything major.
No, I think a lot of these have been kind of smaller deals.
I do want to say this. I love what the Eagles have done in free agency. Got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Devin White, Bryce Huff, um, got Saquon Barkley. Kenny Pickett wasn't a bad pickup to back up Jalen Hurts either. At least make him compete for the job. So I like it. I like what they did. I like what the Eagles are doing. They're building that defense back up. I think they need a safety. I think they need another corner. Uh, get that secondary shored up, and I think the Eagles are going to be very scary. And good luck replacing Jason Kelsey. But other than that, I think the Eagles are going to be very good this year. I don't think they're gonna have a. I don't think they're gonna fall apart like they did last year. Can you imagine the RPO game with Saquon, Jalen Hurts, and AJ Brown slash Devontae Smith? That's going to be insane RPO game. I'm gonna watch that. I feel like they made some great moves. All right,
Yeah, I mean,
you.
it's definitely going to be hard to stop in the playoffs.
And also, I like the Tyron Smith move to the Jets. I think that's very needed for Aaron Rodgers to stay healthy. But all right, Justin Fields goes to Pittsburgh for a sixth rounder, and then I want to cover the other side of this. The Bears get DeAndre Swift, and they let Mooney walk, but um Keenan Allen for
He,
pocket change. So there are two sides to this. I like this for Pittsburgh. You get Justin a backup Russ, let him learn. I think Justin could reach his full potential under this as long as Russ has still got it, at least a little bit of it. I also like this. I don't like this move for Chicago, but I like the other moves that they've made. Why? Just try to explain to me why. And you can have your opinions on Justin Fields, but I don't understand what. Like, you should know as an organization you didn't give him enough weapons. That's why you're going out and getting DeAndre Swift. You're paying him a good amount of money. You're paying Keenan Allen the big money contract that he has. Why would you not ride it out with Justin Fields and just either trade that first pick or go take Marvin Harrison Jr.? Me, I would have traded that first pick, gotten at least 2 first rounders back. Because if you can keep trading with bad teams, like say you let the Commanders move up, you do a Kevin Costner draft day situation. Just keep moving back picks and let these first round picks build up. Because if you traded back to say 4, I don't know who's at. I can't remember off the top of my head who's at 4. I think it's Arizona, or even 5.
it's either Arizona or
You
New
could go
England.
get New England's 3. I know that for a fact.
So it might be
It's
Arizona
Washington
then.
2, New England 3. I think it's Arizona 4. I don't remember who's at 5. But trade that pick back to say 4 or 5, whatever. You go get Joe Alt. Then you'll get another first rounder, and either this year or next year, or even a couple second rounders. Go draft a good receiver. Go shore up that defense. Go get a corner. Go get an interior defensive lineman, or a safety, or another offensive lineman. Like, there are so many things you could have done, and this first number 1 pick is so valuable. Just and you've seen what the Panthers gave up for the number 1 pick last year. The haul you got for Bryce Young last year was absolutely insane. Why wouldn't you have done the same thing this year? Because you already have another first round pick. So you have two first round picks already. Why would you not have just traded back and gotten more draft capital for how valuable this number one pick's going to be? Someone's going to bite on Caleb Williams. All we've heard is he's a generational talent. And so I think this is a bad move for the Bears. I think they should have kept Justin Fields. I think they should have let it ride out with him because I don't think you've had enough. Or it was the same thing with Lamar. And Lamar's stats his first couple years were similar to Justin Fields. Why would you not have just traded that back and let Justin ride it out and let him reach his full potential with guys around him? I think this is great. I think this trade's great for Justin Fields. I think it's great for Pittsburgh, but I don't like this move for Chicago. Sorry, that went on a little bit. Go ahead.
I was about to say that was quite the tangent, but I feel bad for Justin Fields. I feel bad that Chicago did this to him. I feel good that he's going to Pittsburgh, goes to a place that wants him, that's going to help him develop into the best possible quarterback he can be. But he went through the shits in Chicago and had to deal with kind of the crap they gave him and was expected to turn it into gold. Um, I mean, he made the best out of that opportunity last year. They had a chance at that wild card. Green Bay kind of snatched it out of their hand. I think it was on the last day too. It was whether or not Green Bay won. So, I mean, him having to go through the rebuild and then finally, when the rebuild is done, get let go. I mean, I feel bad for him. Um, Chicago, the front office, what are you doing? Um, the, I, I want to talk to some Chicago fans to truly get their insights on it because towards the end of the season last year, they were chanting, "We want Fields." I don't think that Caleb Williams is going to be all that greatness, whatever you want to call it. He may be this generational talent, but I mean, I'm starting to trust ESPN less and less with the crap they've been saying, especially when it comes out to their pregame predictions and everything. I mean, they're starting to get stuff like really wrong, and I would not be surprised if they are really wrong again on Caleb Williams. Um, some guys just
Fat.
have it. Some guys just have it in the NFL. I don't think Caleb Williams is going to have it. SoCal historically has been shit at producing quarterbacks. You look at Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold.
He was supposed to be this next great thing, and what was his name? It was Matthew McConaughey in Wolf of Wall Street. He was like, "Oh, who was the where is Sam Darnold now? Nowhere."
The
I believe his
Vikings.
name's probably what third string. My point. And I think what was it? I didn't think was Sam Bradford a SoCal or was he Stanford?
Oh God.
Not sure.
Part of me wants this. Part of me is thinking both. I'm not sure. Hold on.
Um,
Let me look it up. While you're saying.
I can't remember what his first name is. His last name is Leinart. He was also supposed to be a fairly good quarterback in the NFL. Didn't really pan out to anything. I don't trust what Southern California is doing with developing their quarterbacks. I don't think it translates very well, given the Pac-12 really isn't that great of a football conference, as we're seeing. They aren't really much of a conference in general anymore. So I don't
You
think
said Sam
it.
Bradford, right?
I believe that's what his name was.
That's
Played for the
he was
Rams,
OU.
Oklahoma. Oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Clearly, Oklahoma can't really develop quarterbacks either, but Baker Mayfield may
Just
be the
blame Lincoln
exception to that.
Riley.
Yeah, Lincoln Riley, I've got my thoughts on him. I think Southern California grossly overpaid him. I mean, he's gone to the CFP, what, once, twice maybe, with Jalen Hurts and Baker Mayfield. I don't think he's won anything.
I was he coaching there when Baker was there?
I believe so. I'm not entirely sure. Besides the point, Caleb, Caleb Williams is not it. I just don't think he's got that it in him. Some guys got it, some guys just don't. I don't like his personality. Um, my mom's gonna kill me if I say it, but he's just he from what I've heard and what I've seen come out from ESPN about the things he said, he just looks like a locker room cancer. Not a guy I'd want to have there. So
Well, he also
that
paints his nails.
that fuck Utah thing, and I mean, I think karma's a bitch. Karma's a bitch, and it bit him real good. So
Lost to Utah 3 times. What a
again,
career, Caleb.
he couldn't
What
win
do
big
you think
games.
about what do you think about him not giving his medical records to any of the teams except like the top 30 picks?
I would love to see him. And you talked about that draft day reference. I would love to. I can't remember what that quarterback's name was, but I'd love to see him just fall down the board, just straight plop, plummet, sink like the Titanic, if you will.
God, what was his name?
I don't know. He had that like long blondish
I know
hair,
exactly who I can picture his face, but I cannot remember
very
what his name
very
was.
similar personalities. But I
Oh
mean,
gosh, that's making me mad.
him
Um,
basically just showing up at the combine just to talk to the press, I think was kind of a dick move. Dude, just don't
well,
show up.
he was throwing for camera shots too. He was like out there on the practice field. The NFL account just reposted. It was like Caleb putting that work in after work. I was like, bro, didn't work today. Like, um,
Dude,
but
dude put
Caleb's
dude.
walking into a good situation.
He
He's
walked
walking
into
into a good
he walked
situation.
in he walked into a good situation in Southern Cal, and yet they still didn't do shit. I
Yeah,
don't
they
think
didn't.
he
It's
has
a
it.
little bit different in the NFL though, because like anyone that expects a rookie quarterback to do anything, like CJ Stroud's the anomaly. So I don't think you can expect a quarterback to just come in and just light it up like CJ Stroud did, throw for over 4,000 yards. So I
What's
think,
quick question? What's the biggest difference between C.J. Stroud and Caleb Williams
are we talking just on the field? Or are we talking off the field too?
off the field? Because
CJ's got a maturity to him.
so
I mean,
here's my
CJ was such a mature quarterback coming out of college. Like you listen to him talk to the press. I don't watch a lot of Caleb Williams interviews, but obviously I followed CJ Stroud. Um, CJ just sat, it was so mature coming like in college, out of college. Like you hear his post game interviews after they lost to the Wolverines and after they lost to Georgia and all that type of stuff. And I love CJ the person. I love CJ the football player, and I love CJ the man. That's and the way I think CJ handled the way that everyone was coming after him for bombing those stupid cognitive tests that proved to mean nothing because he balled out this year. But I think CJ handled that situation very well. Go ahead.
so back to my question. I think the biggest difference between Caleb Williams and C.J. is how they carry themselves and their like demeanor. Um, you look at C.J. when he loses. Of course, I mean he's going to be a little down, but he takes it well. I think he's an extremely humble man, and that allows him not get too high with the highs and not get too low with the lows. But you look at Caleb Williams, and I mean some of those losses last year, given he had some good games, and the defense at SoCal kind of sucked, but
Well, that's because Lincoln Riley doesn't care, but we'll get to that in the summer.
it was just he didn't carry himself well after he wasn't a gracious loser. And I mean playing for the Texans, the expectations were damn near on the floor for CJ, and I I I I loved him. I thought the way he handled it, and the way I think that the Houston area is going to love him for years to come. Because, I mean, you look at that Tank Dell connection that he's got, and I mean, I was so
And
bummed
Nico
out when
Collins.
I was so bummed out when Tank Dell went down because seeing how CJ had balled out and basically went out and told everyone to fuck off. Like I had it. Like I am him. Incredible. I mean, dude was in the running for Offensive Player of the Year for most of the season. I think he had a case for it. I don't remember who won
CJ
it.
won it.
Oh, CJ did win it.
Oh, you talking about offensive player? I was thinking offensive rookie. I'm tripping.
Now I was talking about
No, he was
offensive.
in the
Like,
conversation for MVP until he got hurt.
and so
He
I mean,
probably would have won it too.
I don't know because I think it was Lamar that won it, right?
But
Because
CJ
I
had
mean,
better passing stats.
Lamar. So I mean, I get when
Lamar
it comes
overtook it when CJ got injured. CJ, everyone was talking about CJ winning it.
because I mean, I think a lot of when you look at it, it's impressive to watch a rookie do it. But I mean, I don't think Caleb Williams has it. I think Chicago is going to ultimately get the bad end of the stick by doing this. And I would love to see Justin Fields go and beat Chicago in a Super Bowl. Go carry the
Chicago
Steelers to
ain't
a Super
making it
Bowl.
that far.
Please, I want it for the drama. Like, give me some other drama than this damn Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. I'm damn near tired of it. Get her off the freaking TV screen, out of the stadium, just gone. I don't care that the NFL makes money from it. I sincerely don't. The NFL can go suck a dick for all I care. Just please stop. Give me Justin Fields beating the Bears in the Super Bowl. Like, we need to move on. I'm getting too worked up on this.
Yeah, clearly. uh, also, I like the move the Texans made by getting Joe Mixon. That was uh that was a great signing, and
Good,
it
good,
improves
good
that
back,
back. Damian
good
Pierce
backfield.
and Joe Mixon together. I like that. And you got two good wide receivers. Offensive line needs a little more work. I think you need another defensive lineman. I think you need a little bit more. I think you need one more linebacker, good linebacker, a little bit in the secondary. But I think I think Houston's on their way to building a one hell of a team. Just put it that way.
Yeah, and their division again, I think is one of those that isn't going to be too hard to win. Tennessee's going to be shit this year. I'm sorry if you're a Tennessee fan, you're going to be miserable. I mean, you're going to be like paper bags over your head, miserable. Um, Jaguars, I saw this. I think someone on ESPN was talking about this. Trevor Lawrence might be the Jared Goff of this generation, or not Jared Goff, Matthew Stafford when he was with Detroit, just kind of stuck, um, like on a somewhat decent team, able to like make the playoffs sometimes, and then losing that first round. Um, but we'll see how that ends up playing out. But I think the Texans are going to end up being very heavy favorites to take the AFC South.
That Trevor Lawrence take interests me, but we'll move on.
I think
Um,
I think he's a great quarterback. I don't
I don't.
really like what he's got around him. He
What
he
has he
doesn't really.
done? He had Calvin Ridley. He's had Zay Jones. He's had decent teams. I mean,
I think
don't get me wrong, they're not like gangbusters out here, but um Trevor hasn't performed well. He didn't perform well last year.
okay. Do you want to talk about this Clemson news?
Yeah. Your favorite team, the Clemson
Fuck them
Tigers.
Tigers.
Clemson Tigers sue the ACC. Um, Sued over the Gr8. Same thing. Florida State sued them over in 26 for the one they amended in 2016. Doing the same thing Florida State's trying to do. Get the 140 million penalty estimated nullified. This one interests me because ESPN's already in on this lawsuit, or I think it's a separate lawsuit than the Florida State one, but um, I think it's interesting because the ESPN's gonna get pissed at Clemson for doing this too. So that kind of takes Florida State and Clemson out of the running for the SEC. Because they're going to go eventually. They better hope they don't get shafted by the courts and have to stay until 2036, which would be funny. I'd Florida State, you can let them out. But Clemson, I don't like Clemson. Ohio State destroyed that program. Thank you very much. But yeah, I mean, the ACC is going to crumble eventually. The ACC needs to win these court cases to be able to stay a conference because even if they tell Florida State they still have to pay, and Clemson they still have to pay uh the penalty. Even say that the court raises the price and makes them pay 500 million each. What are you gonna do with that $1 billion? Your two big dogs just left. And football makes all the money, so the rest of it doesn't really matter. So I think the ACC's done, and they haven't made the moves the Big 12's made in getting Utah and Colorado, who's the up and coming football program. Arizona, who's a great basketball school. They're getting a lot better in football, even though Jed Fish left. I think they'll still be all right. So I think the ACC is going to crumble. I don't see that happening for a couple years. Your thoughts?
To prevent us from getting a strike on YouTube, I am going to try and keep this somewhat PG. Um,
You haven't kept the entire podcast PG.
if you're one of those people that goes on YouTube and has to like rate the videos or whatever, please don't give us a strike. I'm very sorry about that. Heat of the moment, it slipped out. I like what you said about Clemson or someone getting shafted. But I think the Clemson, back to what we were talking about, I think it was either the first or second episode. Clemson football, I think, is done. They're dead. Dabo, I think he's starting to get to
I
that
think
point
it's a
where he's.
Dabo problem.
But I mean, the whole culture in that building is starting to fall apart. I personally, I would love to have them in the SEC. Come get a decent schedule, and we'll see how that 8-win season would hold up. Because y'all come to the SEC, y'all being Clemson, y'all are not doing anything. I'm sorry. You've had notable wins last year against North Carolina. That's it.
That's not notable. No, North Carolina was not a good team last
Exactly.
year.
Exactly. My point
They
exactly.
didn't beat anyone of importance.
And then you come to a South Carolina team that was struggling, and you don't even score an offensive touchdown.
That's more of a diss
Really?
against South Carolina, though.
Really?
That's more of
Yeah,
a
the
diss
fact that
against
they
South
still won the
Carolina.
game, but their offense didn't do shit against a defense that gave up 40 something points to Florida. Bruh, I
Either
mean, come on
way.
now.
Hey, Graham Mertz is a dog.
They fucked us over in the last 10 or last like 2 minutes. I mean, just straight just I mean, it was bad. I mean, I remember sitting there watching that. We were all doing the gator chomp with like 4 minutes. Like we were like, we got this in the bag. Nope. Turnover, they score. Three and out, they score, and I was like, God damn. But I mean, I think the ACC they're going to need some big moves, but I don't know who they're going to be able to go out and get to stay afloat. Um, Clemson leaves. Obviously, that's one of the bigger brands in football. Um, but I think this just goes to show we need to separate football from the rest of the conferences and kind of get more. Um, I don't know how this would work because football funds a lot of these other sports, but be able to have money come directly to the schools so that the schools are able to go and then fund the rest of the sports. But the conference realignment stuff I think needs to be something exclusive for football so that these other sports like these softball players, the track runners don't have to go cross country for a meet and getting behind on school, suffering from sleep loss, all that. So that's my thoughts on it. But not really the greatest Clemson fan. In fact, I'm
No, we can tell.
not a
I'm
Clemson
not
fan
a
at all.
Clemson fan either by any means. I got to see Clemson destroy Ohio State for 2 years in the playoffs. With one with once with Deshaun Watson, once with Trevor Lawrence. Yeah, don't forget about that. And then no, the one with Trevor Lawrence is when we got screwed out of the game by the refs. I will die on that hill. I don't like blaming refs or games. I think it's low hanging fruit. We should have beaten them, but look,
For someone who
if there
says
was
I
a
don't
most
like,
controversial call in college football history, it's gotta be the fumble. How you called that a catch? Anyways, I'm gonna get heated, so we're not
hold
gonna
on,
talk
hold on,
about
hold
this.
on, hold on. For someone who says I don't like to blame the refs, in the conversations we have, you blame the refs an awful lot amount of times.
Okay, look, I blame the refs when I'm mad after the games, but give me like six
Ohio
hours. I'm
State versus Illinois, Ohio State versus Michigan, Ohio State versus Clemson.
And what do I say after the games? What do I say like 6 hours after the games? I always say in football, I typically don't blame the refs. In the Illinois games, we kind of got shafted. We should have won that game, but I mean, 27 fouls to 13. We kind of got the short end of the stick on that one. I mean, it's not like we were fouling to keep up or to try to win the game, but like 6 hours after the game, I'll always get my thoughts right, especially when we played the Wolverines this year. Yeah, the reffing was kind of bad to me at the time. It's easy to blame the refs when you're mad, but I will die on the hill that the refs screwed us out of that game in 2019. I would die on that hill. Because
So
how that was not a fumble,
you can die on that hill. I'm gonna sit back and watch and probably drink some Dr. Pepper while it happens. Um, to wrap things up,
you'll die on the
weekend
hill
pick.
that South Carolina is going to make a bowl game this year.
You know what? I will. I'd be willing to put money on it because I think it's gonna happen, and I love when
It's
people
not
have to
going to
tell me I'm
happen.
right. So
It's not going to happen. We already went through this.
yeah, just wait and see. Okay, weekend
Oh,
picks, rattle them off.
can't wait to see South Carolina get ran through all year. It's gonna be great. Can't wait to see y'all lose to a mediocre LSU team this year. Anyways, weekend picks. Go all college basketball. And you rattle them off first because I did not write down who my teams were playing against.
Um, just read them off. But my weekend picks, I pretty much took one college basketball game because I've done real well lately. I'm gonna stick with what I've been doing, and that has been the NHL. You're gonna call me crazy for this. Give me Washington Capitals money line versus the Carolina Hurricanes Friday night.
Where's it at?
Washington. I took Vancouver money line versus Washington, and I was like, I can't trust the Caps. This time I'm trusting my gut. Evgeny Kuznetsov returning to Capital One. I don't think he's going to do shit. Get that bird out of here. Um, so yeah,
Says the
I
guy
already
that
know
was
my.
singing its praises last week.
Hey, I mean he's solid, but I have to root against him anytime he comes to Washington or he plays against Washington. Also, give me Edmonton money line against Toronto. I think Toronto is going to start to fall apart here. Not McDavid's going to end up tearing up that front six. So definitely interesting to see how that plays out. Um, and then Panthers money line at New York. I think that'll be a good game to watch. Um, Pretty sure those are both pretty high level playoff teams. I just think Florida's got too much firepower. It'll be interesting to see how the Rangers defense handles it, especially if Florida gets on the power play. That's going to be, I mean, the two lines they have are absolutely just going to fucking destroy you and torture you for that 2 minutes. Um, and then I don't want to jinx it, but I want to be right. JMU money line versus Wisconsin Friday. March Madness. I think it's going to happen. I like the matchup, the way it the way the two teams collide. Give me the Dukes. Wasn't a big fan of their football run this year. I thought they were a little fraudulent. Kind of got exposed by App State at the end. Um, and then I did real well with that Scheffler pick last week. He ended up winning the Players Championship. That's trying to figure out how to say that one. I had him at top five. Give me JT to go top five at the Valspar Championship this week. Hopefully that trend continues. Hopefully he wins it. He's one of my favorite golfers. I love him as a guy. So, JT, if you see this, hope you play well. Joey, what you got for this week?
Going all college basketball because March Madness tournament is the best tournament in all of sports. So, trying to stick with under minus 200 bets. If the odds change, it's not my fault. But we got Mississippi State. Okay, I got Mississippi State over Michigan State. I trust Tom Izzo, but I really like the way Mississippi State's playing. So,
They're hot.
we'll see. They're hot. Who did they lose to? Was it Auburn? It was Auburn.
I believe so. I mean, it's like
They're
the
hot.
blonde
I
on.
love the way they played the way they played last week. And I'm gonna end up jinxing it. I'm taking South Carolina in a money line against Oregon. Oregon's hot right now. They were one of the bid stealers. They're healthy. They're hot. South Carolina underachieved in the tournament the conference tournament in my opinion. So, but I like the way they play defense. So I think they might. I don't know if Oregon's going to be able to score with them. I like Nevada against Dayton. I got that as a 10-7 upset, even though I think Nevada's favored. I like that. I think Nevada's gonna run a better pace than Dayton. I think Dayton's fallen off. Dayton was really hot earlier in the year, but I think they've fallen off. New Mexico against Clemson. I mean, you could say Clemson's underseeded. You could say New Mexico's overseeded, but they're playing their best ball right now, which is what I like. I like hot teams that are playing right now. So give me that. And then this game's really a pick 'em, but give me TCU money line against Utah State. Utah State's got some dogs, but I think TCU can pull it out. I think they got some like 8-footer monster that can just lay up without even jumping. But give me TCU. I think most of these teams are favored, but not by much. So yeah. Go ahead, like and subscribe. Share it. We're still, like I said, I think I said this on Monday. Monday's when it got released. Yeah,
I think
Monday's
so.
when it
I
got
can't
released.
remember.
So I think I said this on Monday. We're trying to reach like 7 trillion subscribers by the end of the week. Y'all can help us do that. Go spread the show with your friends. Comment, like, subscribe. Like the TikToks, even though TikTok's not going to be a thing for much longer in the United States. The Reels, the Instagram posts, the tweets, all that. Go follow us on all that. And we're still hosting that bracket challenge. So please go sign up on NutriSaveHealth.com. It's going to be in the link's going to be in the description. And while you're there, go ahead and check out some of the NutriSave merch. Got some performance tees, got some whey protein, and we got something in the works for pre-workout. So go ahead, check all that out. Support us in our mother's basements because we definitely need it.
This just again, if you've stayed for the whole hour and 15 minutes listening to me drop F-bombs and say shit for a while, thank you. I'm gonna go wash my mouth out after this. Go ahead and do what my mom would do to me.
You wouldn't talk to your mother with that mouth, would you?
No, I wouldn't. I get my freaking face like she just go bang, 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 tell me to shut the fuck up. So yeah,
You're not doing
again,
any better.
again, thank you. It means a lot for you guys to stay, and especially if you're watching it this late, or not this late, but watching it for this long. Truly, thank you. It means like the world to us. Trying to grow. Really, go comment on our stuff. That helps the most. Go like, share it with your friends. I mean, I feel like what we're saying here has definitely got some true value, some true meaning, especially some of these takes that we've got. Um, hey, if I'm right about that Caleb Williams, I mean, hey, you heard it here
You
first.
hit it, heard it here first.
He is
Everyone's goo
not
goo guying.
he's not the shit. He's not even a fart. Just to quote, I think it's Ice Spice out there. So we'll see about that one.
Oh, I was not expecting
Before
that. I was not
before I
expecting Ice Spice references on a sports podcast, but here we are.
so thank you. We will see you guys probably Monday if we release a special talk about how the first two three rounds have gone. If not, we'll see you guys next Wednesday. Thank you for staying this long. We really appreciate it. We love y'all from the bottom of our hearts. Peace.
Tell